So violet leaf absolute. How does that work on the etheric field? Well, the answer to that is slowly, gently, deeply, thoroughly. So this is an expensive oil, and you can see this is such an old bottle. It's been filled lots and lots of times, but I love the fact that this is old bottle that I keep using. And that's part of the romance, I think, of violets, that they are so fleeting. You know, they are around for just a short few weeks in the spring, and they're just so jolly, aren't they? And so I love the fact that they spring from nowhere, and quite often you'll find them in dark places under the trees. And I think that really tells us a lot about the knowledge of the violet leaf. So violet petals, of course, purple, but the violet leaves are really dark green, and they've got kind of like a purpley hue, and there's a darkness to them. And particularly if somebody has really bad cough, or somebody cannot sleep, or somebody cannot rest, or is distressed, all of these things can be dealt with using violet leaf absolute. And you'll notice that the energy of violet leaf has changed the way that I speak. It's slow, it's gentle, it's like a whisper, and it's around, it's like if somebody has had a terrible shock or is having treatment, and you're just aware that their etheric field is extremely fragile. We don't want to start them, or we don't want to make them jump or make too much noise around them. Any kind of situation where you feel like you've got to shut the door quietly, then that is a time for violet leaf. It is like a whisper, but it works so beautifully on smoothing the etheric field. So I often talk about when I encountered a very frightening thing. I talk about this in my Spike book, and I literally felt like I jumped out of my skin. I was like the cartoon cat, you know, all spiky. And in the Mer video, I talked about how the Mer kind of knits, tears, and sews them back up where there's holes. But when somebody has gone through trauma, what you'll find is this is kind of like a contradiction in terms, because our auras don't stop. You know, they go on for infinity. That's how we connect to other people. But there does come a point where it's kind of the edge of your aura and kind of blending with somebody else. So I know that it can't be both things, but it is both things. But what you'll find is if somebody's had been really frazzled or frightened, they will get like a Raggedy effect to the edge of their aura. And when I'm using this picture, it's quite misleading, because it implies that we can work with all of these different bodies, and that it's like set into quadrants. This is a dowsing tool, or for when I'm actually like observing somebody's aura, and I'm doing it with the hand, and I can feel holes, or I can feel raggedy bits, or I can feel thicknesses, or in some cases I can see a thought form. This is for me to note down where they are, and it's helpful to me to kind of go, okay, so if I remember next time that it was in 8, I know roughly where it is. But you certainly don't ever see the aura looking like that. Not only do you not have these, I say quadrants as 8, I don't know, octants I suppose, but also we don't really have like a solid note of being able to see that many etheric fields. So when I was about 13, I can remember going to the spiritualist church with my mum, and there was a guy sitting in front of me. He'd have been, I guess, well, a 13-year-old, you can't really guess people's ages, can you? But I would say late 20s, early 30s. and he was dressed all grungy. It looked like he might like something like Sisters of Mercy, Jesus and Mary chain, but his aura was completely purple, and I've never seen that on anybody else. And the only difference that I could see was there was one patch up here that was gold. So goodness knows what I saw. Whether I saw an angel, I have no idea. But it would be it's first of all to know that it's very common to just see only one colour, because that's the pervasive kind of nature of the person, or the emotional field of the person. But also it's common to be able to see kind of specks of things. But what I find when you're working with violet leaf is, you worry about the cost of it because it's so flipping expensive all the way through, but you are able to bring the purpleness into somebody's aura, which is a strange thing. Like if you were working with lemon, that wouldn't put yellow into somebody's aura, not in the same way, but it's almost like you can paint that purple in. And so what is purple? So purple is, well, let's think about it in terms of just like colour correspondences before. So it's the colour of royalty, first of all. It's the most deep spiritual colour. It's the colour of deep wisdom. It's the colour of a very, very old soul. So if we are painting this purple in, and it means that somebody is wise, or is an old soul, or has kind of sovereignty, how have we put that there? Well, I think that the answer to that is probably that we didn't. What we've done is actually opened the aura. So when you come to learn the aura deeply, and if you come to do luminous garments with me, we'll talk about how different etheric bodies have different patterns. But also they're kind of like structures within the aura. So this is obviously flattened. You can imagine that it comes out like this and out like that at the back, but also within all of those there's like sometimes like circles, sometimes like hexagons, but all of those are like receptacles of knowledge in their own right. And the putting violet leaf absolute into somebody's aura, and I'm going to use this undiluted, which is just so badly behaved, but it's fair. In fact, I actually think that is diluted. What we would do is purely engage with the etheric field. And I mean, it's a bit strange to do it on myself, but I can actually feel the effects already. So first of all, we're actually trying to discern which body we're working on. And remember that the applications that I've said that we're talking about is like deep grief, real deep upset, deep turbulence. And sometimes we kind of go into a time where we think, I just don't have the reserves to do this. I don't know how to do this. I think that in the past you had a priestess who might help you through. The whole idea of the high priestess was that she would help to initiate other priestesses coming through. But that receptacle of knowledge that's hidden can't be accessed. But the aura does hold everything that was, everything that is, everything that will come to be. So we can actually open the receptacles of knowledge using the violet leaf resinoid. So of course, do we expect it to operate down here? No, not really. It's certainly on the emotional body, definitely. On the body of love, that is actually, if I saw somebody had got a hole there, myrrh and violet leaf absolute would be exactly what I would use to just heal that over. It's like the pain has gone so far from the heart, it's way out here. But also I'm getting told, I didn't realise I was channeling them, but I got told, for somebody who has lost their faith, had like entered into the dark night of the soul, and perhaps has gone through this does happen quite often, gone through this huge spiritual awakening and kind of seen the blissful like everything makes sense to me now, and so much information comes in, and then suddenly afterwards there is this enormous crash. And I quite often talk about spiritual awakening fatigue. It's like I just all light has gone out of me, and my friends don't make sense to me anymore. They don't see things as I do, and I'm losing people, and I don't want to do work because this work doesn't make sense to me anymore. And all of that comes crashing down, and there's this exhaustion where you can't sleep properly, or you can't eat properly, and there's just no putting it right. So I'm going to teach you a practice which I think is so helpful. So we've talked about how we can like stroke it through the aura, through the etheric bodies, but also if you're the kind of person that is having this download of information at night, or you're like more prosaic, you're thinking, you're waking up at 1 o'clock in the night and thinking, I wish I hadn't said that person to, or why did they take that wrong? Oh, I had flipping heck, somebody sent me a text and I haven't answered it. And you're awake in the middle of the night. This is exactly what violet leaf is so good at, because we can explain this actually physiologically now. What we know is that the amygdala deals with fear, it processes fear, but the frontal cortex deals with organization and kind of logical stuff, and we call it executive functions. So like balancing your bank statement and knowing what you've got to do through the day and all of that stuff. So in the daytime, the frontal cortex is really busy and it's louder than the amygdala, but when we go to sleep, the frontal cortex goes quiet, but the amygdala keeps on going. So this is why we wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're thinking about why did I say that, or why did he do that, and we've got all these things that we're frightened of and these things that have upset us. What happens is the thought process turns off, but the emotional body is still activated. So a really good way of working with this, especially if you're trying to do spiritual work and you're just awakened by stress, is to kind of go, right, 6 o'clock at night, I'm going to have a worry time. And I'm going to use my violet leaf and I'm going to write kind of journal, if you like, all of the things that are bothering me, that are stressing me, that have upset me. And bear in mind when I say that these are to do with emotions. Once we've got those out and onto paper, the chances are when the frontal cortex settles, the amygdala will not be so activated. And there is no other oil as good as this, as violet leaf. It helps you to tap into the emotional aspects of what's upsetting you. And that can be like trauma, that can be grief, that can be old memories, and we can just get them out. A really interesting thing that I remembered, somebody said it the other day, and it really kind of, I thought, yeah, this is really relevant to this. One of the reasons why PTSD can be so disturbing to people is that we remember things, our brain remembers things from high emotional moments. But when we remember things, if we remember something, what we're actually remembering is the last time we remembered it. How weird is that? We're not remembering when it actually happened. We're remembering the last time we remembered it. So to do this kind of work, when we're sort of engaging with violet leaf and writing it down, what we're doing is creating a different substrate for that memory to exist in. So if, for example, we are remembering something very upsetting and something very frightening, or just like any kind of really bad memory, the next time we'll remember it as if we have been cradled in violets. Beautiful, gentle softness. So this is really good kind of work, the way to work with violet, because what it does is it softens the edges of the etheric body, but also actually works on the brain to process the emotions of traumatic and upsetting memories. So there we have it, violet leaf and its effects on the etheric body.